Voters across Russia's 11 time zones polling for the second day in the country's presidential election, with incumbent President Vladimir Putin being all but certain to secure the fifth term. In the meantime, Moscow accused Ukraine of stepping up attacks and says their aim is to derail Russian voting. Lakshya Sen has more from Moscow on this.
Some 27 million Russians cast their ballots on the first day of presidential election, with a countrywide turnout exceeding 30%, according to the Central Election Commission. Several people have been detained over acts of vandalism when paint was poured into ballot boxes and arson attacks. Criminal cases have been opened, and authorities say those attacks were instigated from abroad. They also say that the number of spoiled ballots is not significant. In the meantime, Moscow accused Ukraine of stepping up attacks against civilian targets in Russia, with voting carried out in Belgorod region as air raid sirens were going on and off throughout the day. President Putin said the purpose of those attacks was to disrupt the presidential election. However, he said Kyiv will not be able to prevent the process of expressing people's will. He said that Russian air defense systems have repelled over 95% of Kyiv's attacks.
In an attempt to disrupt the voting process and intimidate people, at least in the regions bordering Ukraine, the Kyiv neo-Nazi regime has planned and is trying to carry out a series of criminal demonstrative armed actions.
Moscow also accused Ukraine of attempting to cross the Russian border using more than 2,500 personnel, 35 tanks and about 40 armored vehicles over the past days. Those attempts have failed. Voting will continue throughout the weekend. Dasha Chernashova reported in Moscow for DD India.
UN Security Council members condemned Russia's efforts to conduct its presidential election in Ukraine-controlled areas on Friday. In a show of unity, 56 UN ambassadors stood by Ukraine's ambassador to the UN, Sergei Kyriasis. Meanwhile, Russian President Vladimir Putin accused Ukraine of trying to disrupt Russian presidential election and said that Moscow would punish Kyiv for its latest attacks. The first of the 3 days of voting was marked by disruptions, including dye being poured into ballot boxes and cyber attacks. During a St. Patrick's Day luncheon at the U.S. Capitol on Friday, U.S. President Joe Biden and Irish Prime Minister Leo Varadkar pledged unwavering support for Ukraine.
People around the world, they can always count on Ireland and the United States to be on their side, not just for hope, but to help them on their march forward. We see this in our support of Ukraine and the people in the face of Putin's vicious onslaught against Ukraine. America stands up for freedom, and we bow down to no one in the world.
A Russian ballistic missile attack hit a residential area in Ukraine's Black Sea port city of Odessa on Friday, killing at least 20 people. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said that Russia would receive a fair response from Ukrainian forces for the strike.
In Odessa, the rescue operation and provision of aid is still underway following the Russian missile strike. It was a very wild strike. Among those killed and injured are paramedics, rescuers from emergency services. Our defense forces will certainly do everything to ensure that the Russian killers feel our fair response.
In a bid to showcase European unity towards Ukraine, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz met his French counterpart Emmanuel Macron and Polish counterpart Donald Tusk in Berlin on Friday. At a joint press conference, German Chancellor asserted on acquiring more weapons for the conflict-hit country. This recent meeting comes after last month's Franco-German spat in a summit in Paris, where French President Emmanuel Macron refused to rule out deploying Western troops to Ukraine, triggering a dressing down from Scholz. Friday's tripartite meeting was conducted to work on tensions between the allies. The European disagreement comes as US support for Ukraine is also weakening.
We have agreed on a few main issues, and among others, we will acquire even more weapons for Ukraine, in fact on the entire world market. We will use windfall profits from Russian assets which are frozen in Europe to fund the purchase of weapons for Ukraine.
Durch Zusammenarbeit mit Partnern in der Ukraine.
Some European Union member states, in fact, are reportedly against the bloc using profits from frozen Russian assets in the West to buy weapons for Ukraine. The European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen suggested the idea a few weeks ago, and it's likely to be front and center on the agenda when the heads of the 27-nation bloc meet in Brussels next week. Ishan Garg tells us more.
Hungary, Slovakia, Malta and Luxembourg are among countries reportedly against using money from frozen Russian assets to buy weapons. Hungary and Slovakia are considered closest to Russia in the European Union, while Malta and Luxembourg could be against the idea due to their commitment to neutrality. Now, EU heads of states had previously agreed to use profits from Russian assets to rebuild Ukraine, but after Commission President Ursula von der Leyen suggested using the money to buy weapons to defend Ukraine instead, cracks are emerging within the bloc. The bloc's top diplomat Josep Borrell says stopping the immediate destruction of Ukraine is more crucial than the eventual reconstruction of the country. Analysts expect there could be some agreement on the best way to utilize the funds down the line, but it may now not happen in the European Council meeting next week when the heads of state meet in Brussels. There are expectations, though, that the leaders might call for the money from the assets to be used for a common defense fund that could potentially be used to buy ammunition for Ukraine. But the possible purchase of more deadly arms is a divisive issue. Smaller members of the bloc are hesitant to be seen as direct contributors to the war against Moscow. Russian assets worth about 250 to 300 billion euros are frozen in the West. About 70% are held here in Brussels. A central securities clearing company called Euroclear holds them. Officials estimate that the total assets could generate up to 20 billion euros in profits by 2027. About 3 to 4 billion euros could be available as soon as this year. Across the pond, though, in the United States, there is a push to get the EU to seize all of the frozen Russian assets instead of just the profits. However, many in the EU are worried about the financial and legal implications of it. Ishan Garg in Brussels, reporting for DD India.
One of the cases of former US President Donald Trump is in the spotlight after a judge ruled the prosecution's lead lawyer needs to leave the case. It comes after an affair came to light between the lawyer and district attorney, something Trump's team argued was a conflict of interest. Nick Harper gets us more from Washington.
Well, the judge's decision made it clear that this affair has not helped the prosecution's case. Judge Scott McAfee ruled on Friday that there is now a significant appearance of impropriety that infects the prosecution team. It follows the disclosure that Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis had a romantic relationship with Special Prosecutor Nathan Wade, the very man she'd appointed to lead the case. The judge said that was a tremendous lapse in judgment. And now prosecutors need to make, he says, proportional efforts to cure it. As such, Willis can remain on the case, but only if she fires Wade. Even so, Donald Trump's team criticised the judge's ruling. They had argued the relationship posed a conflict of interest, and they're seeking to get the charges dismissed. The judge said he found no conflict of interest. The pair maintain they started their relationship after Wade was appointed, rather than the other way around, and therefore his appointment was not, they say, as a result of their romance. Other Trump cases in New York and Florida have also hit roadblocks this week. Manhattan prosecutors, in his hush money payment case, say they support delaying the start of the trial, which is scheduled to get underway on March the 25th. While in Florida, the judge has rejected Trump's request to dismiss the charges against him. That case relates to classified documents Trump kept after leaving office. Trump is trying to delay the cases as much as possible to try and push them back beyond November's presidential election, with the apparent tactic of hoping that if he's re-elected, he'll be able to get the charges against him dismissed. Nick Harper in Washington, reporting for DD India.
You're watching DD India News Hour. Up next, we're heading for a short break, but after the break, Israel announces plans to send a delegation to Qatar. Houthi rebels fire 3 anti-ship ballistic missiles towards the Red Sea. Germany agrees to a new European Union law to cut packaging waste and ban single-use plastic in Brussels.
The World Wildlife Organization tells us that over 3 billion people across the globe rely on seafood. There are efforts being made to preserve our marine ecosystem. So let's dive right in.
The course of the river was getting shrinked in the upstream areas. And when there is no freshwater flow, the river Ichamuti only survives in the downstream areas, and it has become, in our terminology, we call it a tidal inlet.
Habitat from so many places in the world, and people didn't even know that it had happened.
Mussels that live at the bottom of the lake have this large effect on the biology of the entire lake.
This is the poster that we provide to people on our fish walks. So they can just look at this and identify which are the fish in season, and when we give them the test to go out and identify sustainable fish.
It's worrying because rising temperatures cause the water to expand, and with it, the sea level to rise.
We are taking a close look at the phenomenon of military bases, military infrastructure, and military facilities in the maritime domain and what they do to enhance a country's naval power.
We are the ones who are, assuring them that we will help each and every smaller country, whether it is you want infrastructure from us, we will go and provide it. You want ships, you want boats, or you want any kind of help, a bigger nation is there to help you out.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India News Hour. Let's get to an update on Israel-Hamas conflict. Now, Israel has announced plans to send a delegation to Qatar following Hamas's concessions in ceasefire negotiations, signaling the closest approach to a deal in recent weeks. Under intensified diplomatic pressure, including threats from Qatar and Egypt, Hamas has softened its stance, stepping back from its demands for a permanent ceasefire agreement prior to negotiations. Meanwhile, despite all diplomatic progress, Israel has approved its plan for military offensive in Rafah. Global allies have urged Netanyahu to hold off attacking Rafah, fearing mass civilian casualties. But Israel says it is one of the last strongholds of Hamas, whom it has pledged to eliminate, and that residents will be evacuated.
Can't support a major offensive in Rafah that doesn't also include a credible, achievable, executable plan to take care for the safety and security of the more than 1 million Gazans that are seeking refuge in Rafah. To move in right now in a major way without a proper accounting for all those people would, as we've said, be a disaster. And so we're going to keep talking to the Israelis about this. Again, we if they've got that plan, though, we certainly would welcome the opportunity to see it.
United Nations spokesman Stefan Dujarric has said that the consequences of an Israeli ground operation in Rafah would be catastrophic for the people of Gaza and the humanitarian situation.
I think the consequences of a ground operation in Rafah in the current circumstances would be catastrophic for the people of Gaza, for the Palestinians. It would be catastrophic for the humanitarian situation. It would be catastrophic all around. We very much hope that all of this can be avoided. We understand there's negotiations are still going on, and we continue to hope that we will the parties will find a way to a ceasefire to ensure the greater humanitarian access, to ensure the release of all the hostages held by Hamas and others in Gaza, and frankly to open up a way forward for the people of Palestine and the people of Israel.
The first ship towing a barge of humanitarian aid to Gaza has unloaded supplies onto the shore. The ship transporting humanitarian aid from the World Central Kitchen Organization, led by the United Arab Emirates, arrived in Gaza's maritime space on Friday. The ship contained 130 pallets of humanitarian equipment and 115 tons of food and water that were transformed to World Kitchen trucks, which will be distributed to northern Gaza. The ship is in a test run for a new aid route by sea from Cyprus into Gaza. If this sea mission is deemed success, other aid ships will likely follow as part of an international effort to get more aid into Gaza. The ships would use a newly opened sea route to travel directly to the region. Houthi rebels fired 3 anti-ship ballistic missiles from Houthi-controlled areas in Yemen towards the Red Sea. A Marshall Islands flagged liquefied petroleum gas tanker reported 2 explosions near the ship as it travelled off the coast of Yemen's port city of Hodeidah. The incident happened at around 4 a.m. local time on Friday. It was the second incident in the span of hours as the Iran-backed Houthis vow to expand their campaign of assaults on ships in the Red Sea and Gulf of Aden. Earlier, UK Maritime Trade Operations said another ship reported 2 rockets flying over it. The US Central Command has also confirmed the attack. However, no injuries or damage have been reported in these attacks. The situation is deteriorating in Haiti's capital as heavily armed gangs have taken over much of the capital in Haiti. There are roadblocks, burning debris and trash blocking roads around the city. Shipping containers were placed to block access to the large gantry cranes at the port facility. The runway at Port-au-Prince Airport was completely empty. Widespread killings have been reported along with kidnappings and sexual violence. According to UN estimates, more than 360,000 people are internally displaced in Haiti. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken said on Friday that most of the parties for Haiti's Transition Council have named their representative, but a couple of countries are still yet to do so. An international force set to be led by Kenya to tackle the spiraling violence in Haiti was moving forward but faced stumbling blocks. While Nairobi announced earlier this week that it was pausing the deployment and would reevaluate once a new Haitian government was in place. Fears of the violent and desperate crisis in Haiti spilling over across its borders have materialized as thousands flee for their lives across the border into the Dominican Republic. The collapse of the Haitian government and of state services amid the violent takeover by criminal gangs and threat of famine has the international community on the edge. DD India's Latin American correspondent Mary Trini Mena has the details.
The violent takeover of Haiti by gangs has driven 15,000 Haitians to flee from their homes, according to the United Nations. Many have fled to the neighboring Dominican Republic, which has been dealing with a massive influx of migrants. Dominican Republic authorities say they are overwhelmed by the exodus, and some undocumented migrants have been deported back to Haiti. On Thursday, the UN withdrew all non-essential personnel from the island. Some UN workers with life-saving responsibilities remain in the Caribbean nation, according to a statement. The UN said it is working to establish a humanitarian air bridge based in the Dominican Republic to keep providing aid to those in need. In Haiti, widespread violence led by armed civilians has limited access to food, water, and other essential resources. Shipping companies such as Royal Caribbean halted their arrivals to one of Haiti's hotspots in Labadie, citing security concerns, as well as another French cargo group, CMA-CGM, one of the largest in the world, has stopped operations going to Haiti due to violence in the capital, Port-au-Prince. Meanwhile, the proposal to form a transitional governing council is still under discussion. There is no internal consensus for a new leadership yet. Maritrini Mena in Caracas, reporting for DD India.
A group of university students in Venezuela is trying to improve education standards in the slums in Caracas. They have designed a learning program by creating technology laboratories in low-income neighborhoods. Again, DD India's correspondent Mary Trini Mena has more details from the Venezuelan capital.
This is Petare, one of the largest and most dangerous slums in Venezuela, but is also the epicenter of a unique teaching program. Here, underprivileged children are learning coding and web-making skills. Keiner Iguaran has always been passionate about computers. The 17-year-old student says he's now inspired to pursue a career as a video game developer.
I always liked programming and I learned with videos at home, but it was much more complicated than having teachers to help me or talk to me directly about my doubts.
The program is called Espacio Educa, which means a space for education. 3 years ago, a group of friends decided to offer free workshops to promote the use of technology, especially in Venezuela, where the majority of schools do not have computers or reliable internet access.
The ultimate goal is that we can increase the opportunities for personal and professional growth of very talented people who were born in vulnerable areas where the system gives them fewer opportunities to develop those talents.
So far, this initiative has directly benefited over 150 children, fostering their digital skills, but has helped thousands more by bringing computers, routers, and internet access to 2 schools in Petare.
Espacio Educa also wants to connect high school graduates with well-paying jobs to impact the quality of life of those living in the slums.
Most of the teachers are volunteers. Students between the ages of 15 and 19 years old are given basic programming knowledge through an introductory and an advanced course. Then, some of them are selected for internships in partner companies.
Our goal is to increase the employment opportunities, so at the end of the year they could easily access the labour market with a better income.
And 17-year-old Caroline Gonzalez is already dreaming of her future.
I would like to be a computer engineer, create web pages, and I would like to participate in a big project.
Next year, Espacio Educa plans to extend its activities to other locations, hoping to reach a larger number of Venezuela's innovators. In Caracas, Mari Trenimena, reporting for DD India.
Exposing North Korea's human rights exploitation by their leader Kim Jongun, 2 North Korean defectors narrated their hardship tale at a United Nations event in Geneva on Friday. During their speech, they described their experience as hell and advocated for a strengthened United Nations mandate to investigate and document them. The defectors came to the UN, where diplomats say the Human Rights Council will consider an EU-led motion to boost scrutiny by providing an update to a landmark 2014 report that found grave abuses constituting crimes against humanity. Leader of North Korea Kim Jongun oversaw air warfare drills, urging realistic preparation for combat. Kim was satisfied with North Korean troop readiness and ordered training to cope with all kinds of topography, weather, time, and most severe conditions. The drills took place after joint annual drills involving South Korea and the US were held. A quick look at other stories making it to the headlines from across the world. BTS star V released the music video for his latest solo track, Friends. According to the press release, the music video shows the 28-year-old reliving the same day twice as he experiences love from 2 different perspectives. At least 3 people were killed and many injured as a tornado ripped through the U.S. states of Indiana and Ohio, leveling homes and businesses in its path. 3 deaths were reported in Ohio's Logan County after the tornado touched down in a rural area in early evening. Germany agreed to a new European Union law to cut packaging waste and ban single-use plastics in Brussels on Friday. The law aims to help the German packaging industry, the labeling industry, and all 27 EU members to make significant progress in using reusable packaging and dealing with plastic waste. Mexicans sprawled out on mats and pillows to take a mass nap under the shadow of the iconic Revolution Monument in Mexico City to mark World Sleep Day. The mass nap, organized by Mexico City government, aimed to raise awareness about the importance of adequate sleep and drew more than 300 people eager to get some shut-eye. Waiting for a short break, but after the break, Indian Navy responds to another hijacking bid off the Somali coast. On this National Vaccination Day, let us pledge to protect lives through vaccination. The water crisis looms in the Indian city of Bengaluru. Residents face dire scarcity of drinking water.
In a world that never stops, where information shapes our reality, one app stands out, helps you stay ahead of time. Introducing the DD India app, your gateway to a world of news right at your fingertips. Your most trusted source of news goes global, goes digital. Explore a world of options, top stories, live updates, in-depth analysis, and more. Stay informed wherever you are. Real-time alerts keep you ahead of the curve always. The DD India app, connecting you to the world one story at a time. Download now and explore the world of knowledge, insights, and authentic information. Wherever news breaks, whatever it takes.
Connecting corners, cutting across continents.
Stories that matter from across the globe.
Accurate, authentic journalism that serves you right. From politics to glamour, from sports to world affairs. With a fusion of aesthetics and substance. Introducing news in a new avatar. Experience the world through a new lens. Stay tuned to DD India for an exciting journey beyond borders.
India that invents. India that innovates. India that excites. India that invites. Land of possibilities. Teeming with opportunities. Watch India Ideas each Thursday, 8 p.m. only on DD India.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India News Hour. A quick relook at the top stories once again. In Russia, polling set to resume for the second day in the country's presidential election. Putin vows to punish Ukraine for attacks amid votings. Over 50 UN member states condemned Russia's bid to hold polls in Ukraine-controlled areas. First ship to use new sea route delivers humanitarian aid to conflict-hit Gaza. Second ship expected to sail soon. India opposes the establishment of a post of envoy on special religion at United Nations, says time to acknowledge the prevalence of religiophobia rather than just single out one. The Election Commission of India to announce the schedule for Lok Sabha elections 2024 today. The term of the present Lok Sabha ends on June 16th. Dates for assembly elections to some states also to be announced. Up against former champion Lee Zijia, Lakshya Sen displays nerves of steel to eventually win a thriller and enter the men's singles semi-finals of All England Badminton Championship. India opposes the establishment of a post of envoy on special religion at the United Nations, stressing on the time to acknowledge the prevalence of religiophobia rather than just single out one. India's representative to the UN, Ruchira Kambodh, said that it is crucial to maintain stance above such religious concerns, which have the potential to fragment us rather than unite us.
We are in principle opposed to the creation of the post of a special envoy on the basis of a special religion. We trust that the resolution adopted today does not establish a precedent that could result in numerous resolutions centered on phobias tied to specific religions, potentially dividing the United Nations into religious camps. It is crucial for the United Nations to maintain its stance above such religious concerns which have the potential to fragment us rather than unite us under the banner of peace and harmony, embracing the world as one global family.
Speaking at the session, she also highlighted the importance of giving equal respect to all religions.
At the heart of this ethos is our principle of Sarva Dharma Sambhava, encapsulating Indian secularism and affirming the inherent goodness of all religions, each deserving of equal respect. This principle isn't merely a facet of our culture, it is firmly enshrined within the Constitution of India.
She also reiterated that India is a proud champion of pluralism.
India, as a proud champion of pluralism, firmly upholds the principle of equal protection and promotion of all religions and all faiths. Our rich history as a pluralistic and democratic nation, embracing diverse religions, has long served as a refuge for those persecuted for their faith. Whether Zoroastrians, Buddhists, Jews, or adherents of any other belief, they have consistently found in India a sanctuary free from persecution or discrimination.
All right, to get more on this, we have Akshay Dongria, correspondent, joining us on phone line. Akshay, good morning. We've given details of the response put forth by India at the UN with regard to the establishment of a post of envoy on a special religion. Help us understand the context of this move by the UN, and also why a sudden need for the establishment of a post of envoy on the basis of a special religion.
Well, as far as the United Nations General Assembly is concerned, India abstained in the resolution that was moved forward by Pakistan on behalf of the OIC. Belgium introduced amendment on behalf of the European Union saying that the United Nations should be a religion neutral and opposes the creation of special envoy along with India. So there were 44 abstainees as far as the voting is concerned. However, the resolution passed as the majority voted for the need to address Islamophobia. However, India's point was not against the Islamophobia and the action that the United Nations can take against the kind of Islamophobia that has been going on. Rather, India said that why only singling out one religion when the United Nations as a world body should be talking about all religion and should be gender neutral. Rather, should be religion neutral. And the United Nations also should be talking not just about Islamophobia, but about Jew-phobia, about Hindu-phobia, about Christian-phobia, about all sort of elements that are in fact targeting or rather singling out the minorities in the country. And Pakistan has who itself has a very bad record as far as the religious oppression of minorities are concerned, should not be the one that in fact proposes this sort of a resolution in the United Nations as far as a single religion is concerned. So this was a resolution to push back against anti-Muslim hate. However, it only focused on one religion, and it should have rather been a resolution that pushes back against all sort of hate against minorities anywhere in the world. So that was India's stand, and that's why India abstained from the resolution vote.
All right, Akshay, thank you for joining in with those details. All right, let's turn focus to other updates. As the poll season heats up in India, the Election Commission is set to announce the schedule for the country's general elections today, heralding the country's biggest festival of democracy. We get your detailed report.
In the world's largest democracy, a nation brimming with vibrant cultures and traditions, anticipation surges as India readies itself for the forthcoming general elections. Every 5 years, millions of Indians exercise their fundamental right to vote, this time to elect members to the 18th Lok Sabha, the lower house of the Indian Parliament. Saturday will witness the Election Commission of India unveiling the schedule for the Lok Sabha polls, representing a pivotal moment in the democratic process. First, let's take a closer look at India's 543 parliamentary constituencies are elected directly by eligible voters. A majority of at least 272 seats in the Lok Sabha is required to form a government. India's northern Indian state of Uttar Pradesh has the maximum number of Lok Sabha constituencies, 80. Ladakh is India's largest Lok Sabha constituency by area, while Delhi's Chandni Chowk is the smallest. Now let's take an overview of the voting and counting process. India's democratic system is founded on universal adult suffrage. India allows citizens over 18 to vote regardless of caste, creed, religion or gender. India boasts the world's largest electorate with 960 million registered for the upcoming general elections. Electoral rolls are prepared by official enumerators appointed by the Election Commission. 5 million plus polling personnel and civil police forces form the task force for conducting countrywide general elections. Polling occurs on varying days across constituencies to uphold law and order and ensure voting fairness. EVM voting at polling stations open for a minimum of 8 hours on election day. Voters, including members of the armed forces, are permitted to vote by post. Election Commission appoints observers to ensure fair campaigns and voter freedom. Special election expenditure observers monitor campaign spending. Votes are counted under the supervision of the returning officers. Winning candidate with most votes is declared winner by the returning officer. With elections slated to take place sometime around April-May 2024, the Bharatiya Janata Party, led by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, aims to secure a third consecutive term in power, having secured a majority in 2014 and 2019. Meanwhile, the India Alliance, led by the Indian National Congress, faces uncertainty as their partners struggle to reach a consensus on seat sharing. Mihir Maikuri, DD India.
All right, for more on this, we're joined in by DD India correspondent Anil Thomas. Anil, good morning. We've just given a detailed report on the election procedure in the country, but as we ready for the election dates to be announced today, let us have a quick recap of how different would be the elections this time around as compared to how the elections in 2014 and 2019 panned out.
Well, good morning, Preeti. Purely from a election on election perspective, when you look at numbers, this time around in 2014, the elections were held in 9 phases. 2019, it was in 7. And, this time around, it could be very much on similar lines that, the way things stand, it could be very much on similar lines. Also, when one takes a look or one takes a flashback at the 2014 elections, which began somewhere on the 7th of April, while in 2019, it began on the 12th of April. And in both these elections, the closing dates were the 12th of May in 2014 and the 19th of May in 2019. So we can expect the dates that come this time around very much on the similar lines. Also, when one takes a look at the voter base, that has gone up over the years, clearly the numbers indicate that this time around, compared to 900 million voters in 2019 that we saw, we can see a 6% uptick this time around. So clearly the contest is very much, the Election Commission would have a job on their hands in putting these numbers together, especially in the number of phases that these elections need to be panned out. But when you look at it, compare it to the last 2 previous elections that we have seen, the first one in 2014 had 9 phases, the one in 2019 had 7. This time around, we could see something on very much on a similar lines. And remember, in the 2019 elections, 3 states had seats or had voting taking place across all the 7 phases, which includes West Bengal, Bihar and Uttar Pradesh. So very similar lines, we could see elections pan out this time around too, with the Election Commission likely to announce the dates in a short while from now, that not only for the general elections, but also for state elections, 3 states in the northeast and 3 states in the eastern part of India, and 1 state down south, the Andhra Pradesh, that is likely to undergo state polls.
Yes, all right. Anil, also acquaint us with the demographical changes that can be seen this time around.
Well, roughly around 968 million voters this time around. That's when one looks at a percentage uptick, that's a rise of almost 6% that you have seen purely in terms of election on election, from 900 million to 968 million, 6% uptick in terms of distribution between males and females, roughly around 497 million males and 474 million females that could be casting their votes. In terms of new voters, roughly around 26 million, a little over 26 million new voters have registered themselves, and in that 18 to 19 group, we can see close to 18.4 million voters that would be casting their ballot. And one interesting fact that comes up, the third gender or the third gender that has started voting since 2014, that numbers have seen a quantum jump, this time close to a little over 48,000 voters there in that particular category. This is the mother of democracy, India, that's going to vote over the next, 1.5 month. Many faces that you're going to see. But interesting number surely in terms of a challenge that the Election Commission has in purely executing this particular project. It's a mammoth task conducting elections, looking at the topographic democratic challenges that India possesses, looking at the largest area purely in terms of area when one takes a look at Ladakh, and to the smallest in terms of area when one takes a look at Chandni Chowk. So it's a challenge, a cumbersome task putting this together in a short span of time, say the next 7 to 8 weeks. We could be likely looking at somewhere in the last week of May as counting date. When you see 2014 and 2019 when election dates or counting days were announced. So very much on the similar lines that you could see these numbers play out. But we'll have to wait and watch till 3 p.m. When will India, you and I, get a chance to cast a ballot? The date will be announced then.
All right, Anil, we'll leave it here. Thank you for joining in with those details. All right, let's turn focus to other updates. Committed for its maritime security, the Indian Navy has once again responded to another hijacking bid off the Somali coast. Indian Navy deployed a warship responding to a piracy attack on MV Abdullah, a Bangladeshi flagged vessel en route from Mozambique to the UAE. As soon as the Indian Navy was informed about the piracy attempt, a long-range patrol aircraft was deployed to locate the ship. The mission-deployed warship on maritime security operations, which had also been diverted, intercepted the hijacked MV on the morning of 14th March. The safety of the MV's crew held hostage by the armed pirates was ascertained, and the warship continued to maintain in close vicinity of the MV till its arrival in the territorial waters of Somalia. The Indian Navy successfully prevented Somali pirates from utilizing the ex-MV ruined vessel for acts of piracy on the high seas. The vessel that was hijacked by Somali pirates on Thursday was thwarted by the Navy warship on the next day. During the interception, the ruin reportedly opened fire on the Indian Navy warship, prompting a response from naval officials. Today is the National Vaccination Day. We come together to celebrate the power of immunization in safeguarding public health. This day serves as a reminder of the importance of vaccination in preventing diseases and promoting well-being of individuals and communities worldwide. Join us as we unite in the effort to protect lives through vaccination. We get to more in this report.
Vaccination is a powerful way to prevent serious diseases and is supported by the World Health Organization. This day serves as a reminder of how vaccinations improve public health, lengthen life expectancy, and benefit our society. Each year on March 16th, we celebrate the National Vaccination Day, officially known as National Immunization Day, which is commemorated to emphasize the significance of vaccination to the whole country. Since the first National Vaccination Day in 1995 to eradicate polio, India has made great strides in immunizing its population against infectious diseases. New and increasingly sophisticated vaccines have become available in the last decade to provide protection against a growing number of diseases such as polio, pneumonia, diarrhea, cervical cancer, and hepatitis B containing vaccines. In addition, cholera, mumps, seasonal influenza and typhoid vaccines have also been administered widely. During the challenging times of the COVID-19 pandemic, India's vaccines and its diplomacy shone brightly. By prioritizing the needs of the most vulnerable and marginalized communities, India's generosity and commitment to ensuring vaccine equity not only saved lives but also won hearts by aiding in global immunization efforts.
जब कोरोना के समय दुनिया को जरूरत थी तो फार्मेसी ऑफ द वर्ल्ड के नाते भारत ने 150 से ज्यादा देशों को दवाइयां उपलब्ध कराई.
The other newer vaccines include inactivated polio vaccine, rotavirus vaccine, measles rubella vaccine, pneumococcal conjugate vaccine, tetanus and adult diphtheria vaccine. The development of vaccinations is regarded as one of the greatest achievements in human history. On this National Vaccination Day, let us salute India's contribution to public health and global solidarity. Through collaborative efforts between government agencies, healthcare professionals and communities, we can achieve herd immunity and pave the way for a healthier, safer future for all. Lipakshi Khurana, DD India.
Commercial services of India's first underwater metro train commenced in the eastern city of Kolkata on Friday, with hundreds of passengers erupting into jubilation on their first ride. As the train entered the under-river stretch, a glimpse of the elimination of the tunnel wall under the Hooghly River greeted the commuters, giving effects of water around the moving rake. The under-river section of the tunnel is 520 meters long, and the train took around 45 seconds to cross it. The Howrah Maidan Esplanade section underwater metro line has the first transportation tunnel under a river in the country. It passes under the Hooghly River and it has the deepest metro station in India at Howrah, which is around 30 meters deep. More than 10 million households in India have registered for the solar rooftop scheme, that is PM Surya Ghar Muft Bijli Yojana, in less than a month of its launch. The Indian government announced the PM Surya Ghar scheme, which is a rooftop solar program, on 1st of February in the interim budget. The project aims to light up 10 million households by providing up to 300 units of free electricity every month. To popularize the scheme at grassroots, urban local bodies and panchayats are also incentivized to promote rooftop solar systems in their jurisdictions. A quick look at other stories making it to the headlines from across India now. The water crisis loomed in the Indian city of Bengaluru. The residents are facing dire scarcity of drinking water. People were seen standing in queues in front of RO water plants, clutching empty cans in the hopes of securing their essential water supply. The dwindling water reserves at these plants leading to restricted operating hours, with some facilities only open for a scant 4 to 5 hours per day. Indian Chief of Naval Staff Admiral R. Harikumar reviewed the passing out parade of the third batch of Agniveers at INS Chilika. During the parade, the Admiral said that the current generation of Agniveers is highly motivated. They are very keen to serve the nation and they are already working on ships. India's public broadcasting company Prasar Bharati has appointed Navneet Kumar Sehgal as the board's new chairman. India's Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar led the 3-member selection panel that selected the senior IS officer for the post in a meeting on Friday. Delhi's Ras Avenue Court granted bail to Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal on a bail bond of 15,000 rupees and a surety of rupees 100,000. The Chief Minister appeared before the court following summons issued to him by the court on the basis of 2 complaints of the ED for non-compliance of summons in connection with the Delhi excise policy case. India's market regulator has deferred the full launch of the same-day settlement for its markets. The Securities and Exchange Board of India, SEBI, said that the same-day settlement would be launched only for 25 stocks and with a limited set of brokers to test the efficacy of a shorter settlement cycle. The regulator will review progress at the end of 3 and 6 months before deciding on a further course of action. Another decision was also taken by SEBI on Friday to facilitate ease of doing business for the foreign portfolio investors, that is the FPIs. SEBI has approved a proposal to relax the timeline for disclosure of material changes by such overseas investors. In the last 11 months, India's overall goods trade has been at $709.81 billion. Let's take a look at the graphics up on your screens. India's merchandise exports in February 2024 stood at $41.4 billion as compared to $37.01 billion in February last year. The goods imports stood at $60.11 billion. India's merchandise trade deficit in February stood at $18.71 billion. Economists had expected the country's February trade deficit to be $18.3 billion. The overall exports to the US have significantly been higher. And last but not the least, India replaced China and Taiwan in terms of export of smartphones to the world, and the US in particular. And now we turn focus to sports. India's ace shuttler Lakshya Sen stormed into the semi-finals of the All England Open Badminton Championships. The World Championships medalist defeated the 10th ranked Malaysian in a thrilling encounter. Lakshya Sen is the only Indian left in the fray in the All England Open after a shocking second round exit for world number 1 doubles pairing of Satvik Sairaj Ranki Reddy and Chirag Shetty. Sen will face Indonesia's Jonathan Christie in the semi-final on Saturday. This will be the second semi-final for Sen at the All England Open after 2022 when he reached the final before going down to Denmark's Victor Axelsen. UEFA Champions League quarterfinals draws are out. Defending champion Manchester City will play record winners Real Madrid in the Champions League quarterfinal, while Barcelona will take on Paris Saint-Germain after the draw was held at UEFA's headquarters on Friday. Arsenal returned to the quarterfinals for the first time in 14 years and they play Bayern Munich, which will give the German club's star striker Harry Kane, who had scored 36 goals this season, another crack at his former North London rivals. Paris Saint-Germain, who are seeking their first Champions League title, will take on Barcelona, while Atletico Madrid face Bundesliga side Borussia Dortmund, which means all the three Spanish teams have the opportunity to reach the semi-finals. Having spent almost 14 months away from the cricket field, a fit again, Rishabh Pant leads the star-studded chart, comprising some of the big names making a comeback to the IPL 2024 that starts March 22. Besides Pant, star pace bowlers Jasprit Bumrah, Pat Cummins, Michelle Stark, along with New Zealand skipper Kane Williamson, will hope for a stellar outing in the 2024 edition of the IPL. Take a look at this report.
Many biggest names in the cricketing world will be making their comeback to the Indian Premier League after missing off the tournament for various reasons and varying lengths of time. We take a look at all those cricketers. Rishabh Pant, Delhi Capitals. In December 2022, when Pant suffered severe injuries in a horrific car accident, there were doubts about whether he would be able to play cricket again. 14 months later, his return as Capitals of Delhi Capitals is a cause for celebration. But we will have to see how Pant copes with the demands of batting, captaincy and possibly wicket-keeping in a rigorous IPL season after such a long time out of the game. Pant's return will add firepower to the Capitals' batting lineup, especially in the middle and death overs, phases in which they were the slowest scorers last seasons when they finished second from bottom. Jasprit Bumrah, Mumbai Indians. Having missed IPL 2023 because of a back stress injury, Jasprit Bumrah heads into the new season in peak bowling form. He took 19 wickets in 4 tests against England at an average of 16.89. He has not played a T20 since India's tour of Ireland in August 2023, and his last white ball game was the ODI World Cup final on November 19. Mitchell Stark, Kolkata Knight Riders. After missing the last 8 seasons, Stark returns to the IPL as its most expensive player ever. He was bought by KKR for Indian rupees 24.75 crore, approximately USD 2.98 million, after fierce bidding from Mumbai Indians, Delhi Capitals and Gujarat Titans. Stark has played only 2 IPL seasons previously for Royal Challengers Bangalore in 2014 and 2015. And while he had entered the auction in 2018, he was bought by KKR then too, later to withdraw ahead of the season. Pat Cummins, Sunrisers Hyderabad. Australian captain Pat Cummins opted out of IPL 2023, sacrificing his 7.25 crore paycheck with KKR in the process, so that he could focus on international cricket in a busy year. He ended up leading Australia to the World Test Championship title, retained the Ashes in England, and then won the ODI World Cup in India. Kane Williamson, Gujarat Titans. Kane Williamson's first season for Titans lasted barely an hour on the field. In the 2023 season opener against Chennai Super Kings, he leapt at the boundary to attempt a catch, landed awkwardly, busted his anterior cruciate ligament, and only returned to international cricket during the ODI World Cup in October after recovering from knee surgery. Sports Desk, DD India.
Alright, that's it. And this edition of DD India News Hour. Bart, let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X and also Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Preeti Kaur signing off, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India Live.